Hey everyone, thank you for listening to another episode of Tutia Bruja. I'm Bex Carlos, your host. So today's episode is different than a lot of the ones we've had so far. One, I have two guests. So this is the first time I've had two guests at once. I wanted to talk about, there was a time in my life that I feel like really helped me become the witch in her power which I am today. So I've talked about this before. In 2016, my life kind of fell apart. I was always someone who had a path and stuck to it for the most part, I guess. Went to high school, I did well, knowing that I was going to go to college. I went to college, I did fairly well, knowing that I wanted to go into audio production, media, like specifically radio was what I wanted. I did that. I did that for 6 years. Everything was super great. Then I lost my job and I didn't know what to do. And I kind of spiraled. And it was when I kind of felt like I hit rock bottom that I was able to really analyze my life, really analyze myself, really pay attention to more things around me, I guess. Things that maybe were right in front of my face that I wasn't seeing. So I started to become really involved in social justice. I did an AmeriCorps Vista year. And for anybody who's been a Vista, shout out. Also, it does not pay very well. So when I was in that time in my life, I needed a second job and I started working at this shop. I was at the shop for 3 years of my life, which I think were very formative in a lot of ways. I met so many people from every walk of life, both walked through the shop, was an employee. We were all just a very interesting, curious, unique, chaotic, but fun bunch with good hearts. Definitely good hearts. Working there was like the Twilight Zone, you never knew what to expect. I personally was invited to go see the band Gold Gold Bordello. One of the band members invited me. I personally had Vince Staples try some gooey butter cake because he said he had never tried it. And I was like, yo, let me hook you up. Let's see. Not my personal experience, but I know some people in the shop. Got to go see the concert of and hang out with the late Mac Miller, RIP. It was just the spot we were in. It was just a really interesting time, I think, in all of our lives, and we grew a lot. And so I wanted to have two of my friends on, Ash Hagerstrand and Justin Solomon, who worked alongside me and were on this chaotic ride. So we talk about the shop, we talk about what influenced us as people who try to be connected to art and spirituality in some form or another. We talk about, what's working for us right now and figuring out how to be more connected with ourselves. And we just catch up. Just for your info, for legal purposes, because I don't want to get sued, I did block out the names of other individuals who worked in the shop, and I also blocked out the name of the shop and any characteristics, for the most part, that might give you an idea of what the shop was. All right, well, let's hop into the episode and hope I don't get sued.
Ooh, the button turns red.
Ooh, recording. Ominous red button.
Right, for real.
First of all, I'm really excited that we get to have this conversation, y'all. I'm really sad that it's taken us a while for all to have this conversation. How long has it been since we've all been in a room together?
Probably since last summer.
No, we went to the Ozarks.
Wasn't that in August or September?
That was in September. Yeah. That's the thing I really loved about working in that space, though, is that it allowed so many cool, creative people to come together because I got to meet both of you. So, Can both of you introduce yourselves to everybody?
All right, who's gonna go first, Justin?
Yeah, Justin.
You got notes, so you should go first.
But you just spoke about your work.
Yeah, so I need a grace period.
That's fair. All right, I'm Ash Hagerstrand. I'm from the Bay Area. I majored in photography at Rhode Island School of Design. I mostly work in digital collage and photo sculpture now. My work deals a lot with religion and violence and mourning and my overwhelming, all-consuming fear of death.
Nice.
All right. And I'm an assistant editor and writer for Don't Take Pictures magazine, which you all should check out.
Yeah, we'll include the links to that in the show notes. All right, Justin, you're up to bat. Tell us about yourself.
I am Justin Mikhail Solomon. Please refer to me by my full name. My name is Justin. I'm an image maker based in St. Louis, Missouri. A lot of my work focuses on ideas and observations of Blackness and the spectrum that exists or the nuance that exists in that. Yeah, I'm not currently working on any publications. I didn't go to school.
But your work is still great.
Yeah. My education is vastly different from my art practice. I won't really get into that, but yeah.
Before we started recording, Justin, you had said that it's like a social experiment.
Yeah, most def.
Go a little bit more into that.
I mean, it was like definitely existed as this like Twilight-esque experience where like each day you never really knew what you get, you know? Like being at the intersection of Delmar and Skinker. It was like this interesting dynamic of like I don't know. I feel like we just got the entire like spectrum of like humanhood, you know, humankind, like through that fucking heavy ass door. I don't know. You could have anything from like a 5-year-old white girl who's learning how to like balance her finances by buying pastries at the Loop to like friggin' 65-year-old like crippled black man telling you he's gonna beat the shit out of you. But I think what made it the most enjoyable, like having you all around to experience that and laugh about the things. I don't know.
Whenever I tell Christian a story about he always mentions that we were like the group of everyone who was like the most chaotic possible person ever gathered at as a worker. He's like,
Yeah.
why were you all so crazy?
It was like the first time I met Ash. I don't recall. Ashley was like, yeah, when I first met Justin, he was like, he trained me on what I was supposed to do and was like, all right, yeah, so you want to hear about our relationship with my dad?
Yeah, the first time I met Justin, this is my first day working, he just turns to me and he's like, what do you think about love? Like, what do you think love is?
Like, that's part of the training though, like, for real.
It almost like was. Honestly, it was so weird because, I think one said it best. I honestly feel we're so connected because we had all these like shared experiences. Because like there were so many cool memories there. There were people who proposed to each other. There were people who downed like fucking 23.
Right. Oh my God.
And I feel like we really just cared about each other and
Yeah.
just making sure that like we were cool when we were at work,
It was definitely like this interesting like family dynamic as well. It was like I don't know, it was just like that aspect of like family where it's like one day like we might all be cool and laughing and kicking it, and the next day like everybody's going through their own shit, not talking, or the next day like there's drama, like silent drama that exists, and I don't know. It was fun like all the time though. Like I feel like the entire reason that I started working at because like my previous job I didn't really interact with people and I wanted to like be around folks more and like be in a space where I could like talk more and like move around more, and I definitely did not know what I was getting myself into, but I got exactly what I was looking for and obviously a lot more for sure.
Ash, how did you end up?
So I graduated from this stupid school that is very prestigious. I had a horrible time there though. But I had kind of a useless degree, to be honest, because it's a degree in photography. What are you going to do with that? I couldn't even get hired as like a gallery attendant for $10 an hour with this degree I paid a lot of money for. But I had previous experience in a bakery. I worked at a bakery in community college, which was like a terrible experience also. I don't want to just like harp on terrible experiences I've had in my life. But this bakery experience was really bad. It's like the only work experience I've had where I was like crying every day at work. I had like a boss. We had turnover where people would quit like every week and we'd have to constantly hire out new people because the boss would like scream at us and throw things at us and make us cry in front of customers.
Is that the one that did she say you breathe like you're running up a mountain or some shit like that?
This is the pastry shop I worked at where she would like check the garbage can every night to see if we wasted any material. And one time I dropped cheese on the ground and I didn't want her to find it in the garbage can, so I ate it.
Let's turn this into an intervention. Invite her to the call.
So when I went to college, I was kind of like, I never want to work in a place like that again. And then I came to St. Louis and I was unemployed for like 6 months. I was just having a terrible time finding a job. And then I got to like a really low point where I was like, okay, I have pastry experience. I should just apply to pastry shops. And I applied to they were the only one who got back to me. And I go in to get interviewed and I'm nervous because I haven't been interviewed by anyone in 6 months. I sit down and he's just like, so you have the job. When do you want to start?
Right, yeah. Oh my! It was. Oh yeah, because that was that interviewed you, right?
Yeah, it was that interview.
Yeah.
I had interview me.
Okay, that was an actual interview, probably.
It was nice because like I had a radio contact who worked for the company and was like, "Hey, send me your application." And so I feel like mine was a lot more legit.
Yeah, I kind of like the way I got led to. Obviously, was through. But it was like I was practically not practically working there, but I would like come in and like fold boxes and stuff like that. Like I knew everybody there before I even worked there, so it was just like I just told, yeah, like tell the manager that I want to work, and he's like, sweet, like when can you start? And I was like, this day, and I just like pulled up and started working.
Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, because you would come into the shop when I first started, I was just like, why doesn't he work here? Does he not work here? So when you finally did start working there, I just felt like it was right. It was natural.
Yeah, I feel like the store like changed. Like I think it changed in like a good like wholesome way. Like obviously, like I had my own quarrels with like I don't know, just like trying to be a manager of any experience. I think like my ideals and my values are like really high. But like on the other end, it was like because like when I talked to about stuff, like they might have had fun, but I don't think they was. I don't think they was like kicking it in that mug the way that we was like kicking it. So
Yeah. What was the most memorable thing that you experienced there?
God, there's so many
so
things.
many.
I'm like cycling through so many memories trying to remember when that little girl cycled all the way from her house.
Oh my god, bro! I forgot about that. Oh. Please tell the story, because I forgot about that until just now.
We had like a little girl come in right before we closed, right? One night, and she just sat down and started crying. And at first we were like, what do we do? Because like it's not like any of us are child care professionals.
Right.
And then eventually, I think it had to have been. It wouldn't have been you or me.
Nah, hell nah. Yeah, nah. For obvious reasons, I'm definitely not approaching a small crying white girl. Like, I'm not doing
So
like
I went up to her and asked her, what was wrong. And I guess she had like bicycled from her house, which was in the end super far away. Like way farther than it should have been.
wasn't she going to a grocery store or something?
Yeah, I think she was trying to go to UP or Schnucks or something to get milk.
Yeah.
Her parents didn't know. Nobody knew. And then she just like didn't know how to get home and it was getting dark, so she freaked out. And we tried, she didn't know her mom's phone number, address, or anything. I think she knew her last name, but I don't think she knew her mom's first name.
Yeah, I don't think she did. 'Cause we were trying
So
to
we
find her
like
on Facebook.
yeah, we were like looking through all the people with her last name on Facebook until she recognized her mom's face. And then we messaged her mom, and her mom, of course, didn't respond right away because she wasn't just checking Facebook. So we wound up like calling Christian.
Yeah, instead of like rationally like calling, I don't know, someone else, we called Chris.
We called my partner because he has a large car, and we just put her bicycle in the back of his car and we drove her home. And she had to sit on lap, and the whole time we were driving her home, I guess she was just like farting.
Bro, dropped her off was the moment we all were like, what the fuck did we just do? Heike just kidnapped this child.
It felt like we were like participating in a kidnapping in the end.
Right. It's also like from her perspective, it's like, bro, I would have got my ass whooped. Like,
My parents would have murdered me. I would have never been allowed to breathe.
like how did you get home? Oh, I got in the car with 6 people I didn't know.
And we had all decided to take her because for some reason we were like, that's less weird, right?
Right. We were looking for any reason not to work, bro. So we just like, yeah, we should have closed early.
When we got to the house, we were like, should we go up with her? And then we all decided against it.
Who said that? It might have been me, my ignorant ass, or one of y'all. I don't know. It's somebody's like, just imagine like walking her to the door and her mom opens the door and like smack the shit out of her. Oh my god.
I was the one who messaged her mom.
Oh yeah.
Her mom messaged me like a week later and was like, oh my God, I never checked Facebook. And she had lied about where she had been. She was just like, oh, I was just at grandma's house,
Oh my
which was like down the street. And she got into a lot of trouble, I guess.
Oh my God, bro.
Thankful that I like snitched on this little girl by accident, I guess.
Trying to save her.
How did I never hear about this story?
Bro, we kept it real hush hush. Real
So
hush. That shit was
wild.
hilarious stuff. I'm trying to think of what else. Like, it's a lot that's happened, but I guess like for me, the craziest thing was, were you there, Ash, that time that dude and that girl came in the store arguing?
Did the guy have a gun?
Nah, he didn't have a gun, but he was like talking about smacking her or something.
What?
It was like pretty much like this dude, this young guy, like came in. And actually, first the girl came in and she was like walking hell fast, like obviously like startled and shit. And then he comes in chasing after her, like cussing up a storm. Like I'm in the middle of an order, he cussing her out and shit. So I like, obviously, I'm just like, yo, bro, could you take that outside? And he looks me dead in my fucking eyes and says like, well, what the fuck you gonna do? And I'm like, oh man, here we go. So they're like sitting in the like the front of the store. You know how like it's set up. It's like they between the tables and the counter and shit, and they just like going at it, arguing. She's kind of like crying, but like from their argument, I like got so basically like she was at the loot, told him she was going to the loot with her friends. Ended up she pulled up to the loot with some dude, and it was just a mess. He was pissed off about it. He ended up leaving, and then eventually like she came back in there. No, her friend ended up coming in. And like she was like kind of talking to her, and then we saw a dude coming back in. So it was like, okay, like you guys can hide in the back or whatever. We put them in the kitchen, bro. So like back there like chilling with them. I think he's like calling the police at this point. Actually, no, we still are like debating about calling the police because obviously like calling police on black men, like, you know, implications of all of that is being assessed here. But so he's in the back like comforting them and shit, like girls crying. And like dude comes back in and he was like cussing, like, where the fuck is that bitch at? And I'm like, bro, like I'm trying to like, I'm like tell him to calm down. And he eventually found out they were back there. And he was like, let me get back there. So I'm standing like he's right in front of me, like where, you know, where like part is, like he's right in front of me right there. And like trying to get to the back, and I'm like, nah, like he didn't touch me or anything, but he like, bro, move, let me back there. I'm just like, nah. So eventually it just led to this point where like I'm sitting at the fucking counter having an intervention with this dude. Like, yo, like I'm talking to him like, yo, what's going on, bro? Like, he's like, man, like how the fuck would you feel if your girl said, nah, he was like, if your bitch, like that's how he, but I'm not saying that. But he's like, if your girl was like in the loop hanging out with some other dude, and I'm like, well, shit, honestly, like I would probably be pissed too, but like, you know, like I would handle it differently or whatever. And then mid fucking conversation, bro, like dude is kind of calmed down at this point. Mid conversation, I guess the girl's mom pulls up, like basically kicks open the door, points right at the dude, and yells like, "You're going to jail, you motherfucker!" Blah blah blah. And like, bro, it's like me and him are the only black people in the store at this point, besides the girls. And then it's just like all these like startled white people. And then this dude has the fucking nerve to look at me and say, "Who is she talking to?" Bro, she talking to your ass. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? So then like the police show up. It was a mess, but
Do you remember that time we almost got robbed? It was me and only.
oh my God.
But had come in off shift to count money or something when he was manager.
I don't even know what to call the relationship that developed from that, but
I had gone to the bathroom when it happened, and I'm just like in the bathroom for a while. We'll just put it that way. I'm still on the toilet, and I just hear scream, like very distressed.
oh man.
So, like rushing to finish up, and I run out, and the entire thought process is like, what if gets murdered and I was taking a shit?
Oh my God. One day I was off too.
Yeah.
I'm like, like imagine like my state of mind, like coming into being a manager at the store, and the one day I'm off, we damn near get robbed. I'm like, I can't fucking leave. Oh my goodness.
That's wild. It's weird because it's like we had a lot of those crazy, shady interactions, but then like I also had like a lawyer, a successful lawyer in town who was shouting at the staff once because we were like not willing to give him that item that wasn't even the item of the week
Oh, God.
when we
Yeah.
were, getting rid of stuff. And he was throwing
Yeah.
a fit and threatening to call the owner. And I'm like, we saw both sides. We saw like the entitled, I can do whatever I want because I have money. And also, like, I don't have any money. Help me.
Yeah, bro. I feel like that was like, in that experience, I'm just like, how many of our customers were we actually able to like enjoy? Like, there was always something. Somebody always brought something in there.
Yeah.
There were a few regulars, like the hair cutting people were pretty
Yeah.
cool. The hairstylists down the way.
I think that was probably one of my favorite parts too. Was like the regulars and like remembering what people got, remembering prices, and oh man.
I don't know. I really did love working there. We had such weird experiences together. We were all into art.
Yeah.
What got you both interested in art? Because I feel like we had a lot of like deep philosophical conversations, but I don't ever think we talked about like what inspired our art.
The origins, yeah.
Taking a quick pause from the episode. So, Halloween's coming up in a couple of weeks. I am so prepared. I'm buying candles. I have a ritual water pipe kit that was made for me by Melissa at Temperance Home and Bar. Honestly, Melissa's a saint because Melissa is really wonderful about if we're just chatting and I'm like, I think that I'm just really blocked. They will create some sort of intention that they want for me, and every item in that has been intentionally prepared for me. She's working on a Medusa mirror for me with functional makeup. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, check out her website. She does readings, she makes tinctures, she makes custom compacts for you. She is wanting you to figure out what you need for your journey to become a stronger, happier witch. So reach out to her. She's Melissa at Temperance Home and Bar. All right, let's get back into the episode. Origin story, yes.
You want to go, Ash?
I went first last time.
Okay. Well, for me, I would say like, I don't know. I guess first my thought is like my journey to photography isn't necessarily my journey to like art. I think it took me a while to really like think about my work as art and like really like contemplate my work, get like be very meticulous be very meticulous like about like the details of the work and stuff. But like my journey to photography was like growing up seeing my dad take photos. Like my dad always had like cameras around. Like it was very obvious that like photography was like this like archival process, and that like really interested me. Like I like taking pictures of myself and like seeing myself, and like taking pictures of family and seeing family. And eventually like there's like social media arrived. I always saw like people editing like I always saw my brother actually like editing these images on these websites and like applying filters and like adding text to images and stuff, and it was like really cool to me. So like it really just started for me as like this like really like cool like experimentation of what all you could do with an image, because like I was middle school making my skin green and shit. It was just like really weird effects that I placed on images. But yeah, I feel like for me it was really just like that kind of made me feel like very unique, because I think like a lot of people were starting to take pictures, but I feel like a lot of people like really responded to like the images that I was taking of myself, because I used to do like a lot of self portraits and stuff, or I was doing like a lot of like landscape photography, and people like especially family like always said they really liked my photography. So yeah, and I might piggyback on that later, but I want to hear what Ash has to say about her work.
It's an interesting like thing for me to think about because I don't like really remember having a lot of art in my childhood.
Yeah.
Just because my family's like not the type of family that art institution. You guys know my family. It's not like the type of family that art institutions are targeting in their marketing. Like we come to like a museum and they're like, please leave.
No, I feel that.
But I guess I was thinking about it, and I think, and this is probably why my work is the way it is, probably my first exposure to painting and sculpture would have been through like religious altarpieces and statues and stuff. There was like a really beautiful church down the street from my mom worked at a hair salon when I was a kid, and I used to get bored when she was working, and because she didn't want to pay for childcare, so we would just sit in the salon after school every day, and I would get bored and I'd walk down the street to the church, and there was this big Mary statue, and there was palm trees planted behind it, and if you stood at the right angle, it looked like she had like these crazy bat like palm tree wings.
Yeah.
And I was like obsessed with it for some reason.
My mom was like, Ashley really loves church.
Ashley's just like really devoted.
Right.
But in reality, I'm like, wow,
Look at Batman.
that church is doing a drive-through prayer now, and they were doing it like way before COVID, like years before COVID.
Same thing you said about, I don't really remember seeing what I like see as art now, or like the way art is represented. I don't think I saw a lot of art when I was a kid. Like I said, like my entry into like photography and image making was like purely from just like the practicalness of photography, like seeing photo albums in my family's like homes and stuff like that, and like seeing all these old pictures of my dad with like hair and like all these things that like didn't exist in my time existing in another time. Like that just always like interested me originally, just from a documentary standpoint. I just think it's really cool to be able to like take an image and like suspend this like moment in time forever.
Yeah, I think that's maybe one of the reasons that I started, and like obviously my interest aesthetically is probably more rooted in painting. But I think the reason that I chose photography as a medium was it was the medium that was accessible to me as a person who didn't grow up around art. Even if you didn't grow up around art,
You grew up around photography.
yeah, you grow up around photography. Like my dad was always recording us when I was a kid. We have
So with like middle-aged dads and like documentation, bro.
like just photo albums and photo albums of like the weirdest shit.
For real. I think that's probably one of the effects of like the patriarchy. Like men hit a certain age and they realize that they need to like reminisce on where they are now because it's only getting worse from here.
God. But you're probably right. My dad documented a lot of stuff too. And photos were always like really cool to me, but I don't know. I think my parents really pushed my artistic side. I was given paint, I was given a violin, I was given a lot of things, but I feel like the medium that really worked for me was audio. That makes sense because radio, I remember listening to music a lot with like my family and my dad specifically when I was a kid. I feel like it was something I did, and then I got more like fascinated with the work behind it, creating pieces, conversations, sharing stories. I don't know. It's funny, whenever I talk to other artists who are like visual artists, they're like, audio work is so hard and just tedious. I'm like, yeah. But sometimes that's how I feel about painting. It's really lovely. I analyze things sometimes to the point where I feel like it would never be complete. At least with audio, I feel like I get to a point where I'm like, okay, I think it's done now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what I like about like photography versus like other mediums as well. Is like where painting you were like adding these things to an image. Like I think like with photography it's more so like isolating things and taking things out of an image and like using real elements to like craft it. So yeah, like I think from a practical standpoint, I've just never like I know I'm like a really creative person, but I don't think I work well with like from nothing. Like I feel like I work better
Yeah.
like when the elements are like present and I can like imagine like what to do with those elements. And also I can't draw for shit. So like
Same.
Yeah, even when I paint, I like collage it on the computer first and then I project it onto the blank canvas so that I'm not looking at a blank canvas when I'm painting.
Right. That's like some like galaxy brain level like coloring book shit.
That honestly like is so cool though, and for me it would take out a lot of the staring at the canvas because like I said, I really admire being able to paint. Like I think it's a wonderful skill, but like for me it just looking at something that isn't totally done yet for a really long time, just like it gives me anxiety. I'm just like
Is it like out of a desire to like finish it?
I think so. It's not being able to complete it all in like one sitting sometimes gets overwhelming to me. Because like with audio, I mean like it doesn't necessarily all have to be one sitting, but like you kind of know, at least for me, I like know what the end design is. But like with painting, even though I like have it in my mind, it doesn't always look the way I want it to. The lack of control maybe too.
Yeah, for sure.
Ash, talk a little bit more about some of your pieces because I really do love your work and the religious element behind it.
I always have a hard time talking about the more religion-based work because each of the pieces is so like specific to a very like in-depth researched idea. A lot of the work comes from I wanted to be a nun until I was like 7, mostly because I was terrified of dying as a child. Like I was one of those kids who would like lay awake. I'm not kidding you, I would do this. I would lay awake in bed and calculate based off of like average lifespan how many years I had left to live as an 8-year-old. The work kind of comes from that. Growing up, during my teenage years, I was sort of surrounded by a lot of familial deaths, and some of which were violent. So I kind of like internalized that a lot and started to think about it a lot and have conversations with myself about end of life stuff that you probably wouldn't otherwise be having as a young person. And it kind of reignited my interest in religion that I had lost in my preteen years. And so a lot of the work draws on that. I am always very particularly interested in martyrs, women martyrs in particular, because a lot of the stuff surrounding women martyrs, like it toes the line of what we would think of as sacred and what we think of as obscene. And I really like that. Where is the line between like religiously sacred and obscene, and where do we cross it in like the search of a higher power?
Interesting that you're thinking about it in that way, because like honestly, until you said it, I guess like I've always like existed with this idea like, yo, religions be wilding sometimes, like but it's like for real though, like you said, like what all is justifiable under the guise of like a religion, you know, like that we wouldn't usually justify.
Listen, I'm not the person you want to talk to about this. You know I'm witchy as fuck. Like the other day, I got into a really deep conversation with my sister about the story in the Bible, the Tower of Babel.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, just upon analyzing that story, that one rings true. Like, you know how sometimes you read things in the Bible and you're like, this could be true. I don't know if this is true or not, but this one could be true. And that's definitely one that rings true. And in it ringing true, I kind of feel like God created races and languages to separate people because he didn't like the fact that they were all on the same page and they all wanted to create this tower to get to heaven and interact with him.
Oh, I heard about that story.
And he just like couldn't be bothered by his fan club and he smited them and started over and was like, all right, well, now you guys can't talk to each other. Figure it out now.
It's weird because I like fuck with Old Testament God so much for whatever reason, and I think one of the reasons I do, even though he does terrible shit like that, is he's like such a more, I don't know, human character, and in a lot of like stories, he can be argued with and you can win. Like a person can argue with God in the Old Testament and God can change his mind, and I think that's such a cool and radical idea versus the New Testament where he's like all-knowing, all-loving, kind of like a being beyond our reach.
Listen, having a kid softened him, okay?
He's like, I gotta step my shit up, man.
He's like, I need to stop all the smiting stuff.
Like for real, I gotta really think about my actions, you know, like I don't really know much about the Bible, but from what I do know, like I do feel like the same way like you feel, where like I do kind of enjoy like those like human aspects where like I don't know, it's just like Denise, like we always like talk about it because she's like real, she knows the Bible and she always tells me about this like crazy shit Jesus did. I guess like the one time he's like in that hut healing people and like really into the job, like this is what my man's like out here grinding, and his like brother or his mother or something told somebody to like go get Jesus and bring him to them, and then like the person taps him or something and he's like, or tells him, and he's like, who is my mother, who's my brother? And I'm like, bro, like I hella feel that because like when I'm working on something, bro, do not fuck with me, like don't touch me, bro, like I'm in the zone. Like, I'm going to catch up with y'all when I'm done with this, all right? Like, I already told y'all what I was doing. Like, you know how I am with my work. It's just, like, I feel like people often overlook, like, the very, like, human aspects of, like, God and Jesus. And, like, I don't know, I just, like, I'm really tired of, like, religion being used as, like, this device where people can kind of just, like, cast judgment where they see fit.
Or use it to, like, verify their judgment.
Or also using it as like a solid text instead of, I don't know. I was reading a guy who was talking about how one of the main issues he takes with both historical readings and then contemporary religious readings of the Bible is that it ignores like the power of metaphorical meaning versus literal meaning. Like you can take metaphorical meaning and that can mean something, like actually tangibly mean something to you.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to literally like have happened. There's like value in metaphor.
Yeah. But people are like, no, Jesus said this. And this is
no, it's like it had to have happened this way. It's this.
Yeah. Right.
For real.
Yeah, but I'm like convinced that the Tower of Babel happened.
You're like, that one was for real.
Because I'm like, if that's the case, I think that God is responsible for all this systemic. And I'm just like, I don't know, God. I don't know about that one.
Yeah, I don't know if I could rock with you on that. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, but at the same time, I think like if people are building a tower to heaven, eventually, like in the like it with the idea to like maybe not transcend, but like evolve to a form of godhood or whatever, like maybe they'd end up in the same place and still develop that systemic like racism. Maybe it's like unavoidable. Maybe it's just a flaw in the way humans exist. Like, like maybe it's just something that's unavoidable in humans.
Yeah, the need to like take control of other people.
Yeah, I think all humans like really desire power, and like in any society, like it evolves in like the nastiest ways.
Yeah.
It's interesting that if we're going to connect Old Testament and New Testament, which is probably, obviously not what it was intended when the Old Testament was written, but that idea of humans building up and then falling down, but then in the New Testament, God coming down and then going back up is kind of a fun little visual parallel.
Well, yeah, something to ponder.
God do be wild.
God to be wild.
So I know towards the end of us all working together is when I really started coming out of the broom closet and talking about witchy stuff all the time. Ash, I remember you had a little bit of an interest. Do you still have any interest, or have you dabbled in it?
I do like witchy stuff a lot. No, no, yeah. I pulled a California there.
Right.
No, yeah. When I was a kid, my mom's Jehovah's Witness, but she's also a person who very much believes in like ghosts and the occult. So when I was growing up, I was raised to believe in like ghosts and Ouija boards and like tarot readings and everything like that, but like it's bad, but it's real. Like the way people are raised to believe in God was how I was raised to believe in ghosts and demons. It's something I'm still super interested in. When I was a kid, I was like trying to make wands out of like branches under the full moon. Like my brother lived on a farm and I was like, you've got to get this type of branch and carve it this way under the full moon for me.
Oh my God.
I've never done that.
I think I found it in some sort of like Harry Potter related offshoot book.
Have you ever gotten a tarot deck?
No, I haven't. Every time I like think about buying one, my mom's voice in my head is like, you're going to hell. Jehovah's Witnesses have like a real against like fortune reading thing for whatever reason.
I wonder I don't know. I'm just like, it's just like the way like, I guess maybe that's just like a stem of like religion, but like what is it with like the demonization of like the mystical, like
well, it's super interesting because I mean, I don't know if that's all Jehovah's Witnesses or just something my mom told me. I would preface that. But it's interesting because there's like a whole subsection of like Christianity studies that is like early Christian magical spell studies, because it was like very much a practice in early Christianity to like have spell tokens on you. But then of course
then they demonize it.
Yeah, of course you demonize it later on when you're like, as like early in Christianity, I feel like it was less of a I have to make myself this like individualized thing, I guess.
Yeah.
That's away from everything else. I think it was maybe still in the period of absorbing other religions where it was a little more fluid.
I blew my mom's mind. Well, I guess both my parents' mind one time. Catholics are a bunch of witches and you guys just don't even want to admit it.
For sure, though.
In the broom closet. And my mom's like, no, we're not. I'm like, okay, but like lighting a candle and wishing for good fortune or for good things to happen, that's witchcraft, Mom. And she's like, what? Blowing out your candle on your birthday? That's witchcraft because you're wishing for something. She's like, what? What else? There's just so many things that people do on a normal day-to-day basis that it's connected to something because you're using a tool to help manifest something that you want.
Yeah. It's like so many aspects of even just normal language. Like telling someone bless you when they sneeze, like to prevent them from dying. Like, bro, I don't know. All this stuff's so like woven into our normal lives. I just think like there's this, I don't know. I feel like having a history ran and told by men. I feel like there's always this desire to like silence the other. So it's like, okay, anything that a woman says in regards to like healing or spirituality is witchy or like needs to be silenced, Anything of any other culture, like voodoo, for instance, is demonic.
Well, that's a really good thing to bring up too, because that's something that I talk about a lot in like the metaphysical community is that you'll see the unconscious bias or unconscious racism of referring to white magic, which is like supposed to be like healing stuff, and it typically aligns with what would be Eurocentric practices, whereas like voodoo, santeria, hoodoo, things like that that come from more of like, you know, the African diaspora, you're always villainized as black
Yeah,
magic. Nah, man, like magic is fluid. You could do, I feel like it's all about the context and the intent because it's like
yeah,
sometimes I feel personally it's bad to be someone who sees somebody doing terrible stuff and do nothing in any sort. And sometimes like magic is the tool to like bring people to justice. So I don't know. It's all about how you
yeah,
use it, you know?
yeah,
I think that that's important for people to align and like figure out their own moral compass and do the self work to do that. Shadow work's important, yo.
yeah. That's why like spirituality is really important for me. I guess like for me, the spiritual aspect is like a bit more personal. Like I don't really dive into like I don't know if you could rope astrology and spirituality in together, but like I don't really dive into like astrology and things of that nature. But I do often think about like energy, you know, not only like the energy that I'm putting into the world, but like the energy that like I desire in return, and that applies to like friendships and like encounters and things of that nature as well.
No, and that's important too, is putting into the universe what you want and what you want to come back to you.
Yeah, most def. And also just like on a practical level, like our bodies, like to me, are really like these like instruments for like detecting energies, of course. Like it's like recently like me and Denise have really been like diving into like feng shui and like yoga. Well, she's really been diving into yoga. I've done it a couple of times, but like feng shui especially. And like even just like smaller changes that I've made around the crib, like creating a barrier between like my laundry area and like the rest of my crib, or like separating two rooms, or like burning incense, or like making sure that like I only do certain things in my room, and like other rooms I only do certain things in those rooms. So like separating energy in that way, and like that shit really fucking helps. Like I feel different when I sleep like in my room with like no electronics or anything in my room, and like I've done no physical activity in that room, so it's not this like energized like feeling in the room. And like my living room, like I call the sunroom, it's like my room of like relaxation, but also like a centering room. So like I do things that I enjoy. Like if I'm reading a book that I like, I'll read in that room. If I'm watching something that I like, I'll watch it in that room. If I need a place to like go to like really ground myself, like I'll go to that room. And like my studio is like my workspace, so like there is space like for a bit more tension in the space, but it's the room that I have like the most light in my house. So it's just like, or like it's the room I have the most light in, and also it's like the room I have like the most plants in, or and it's just like things like that. Like for me, I feel like my body has always like really responded fast to like imbalances, and I feel like in the past I often like ignored it or like tried to think my way out of it. But I've really like in my adult life, spirituality has been like this way to like really come to terms with the things that I'm completely out of control of or like in. So yeah.
That sounds awesome. One thing I would suggest is burn lavender's like really good for cleansing.
See, I can't do that. Denise is allergic to lavender.
Oh shit. Okay, well I'll think of some other stuff because I was gonna say I don't really like to promote a lot of use of sage or palo santo because they're both endangered. But you know, I can think of some other things for you to light and help cleanse the space because that's important too. You know, especially with COVID, finding things that you can use to like cleanse the air.
Yeah, most def. And to just like feel good where you were spending the most time. Like I've spent more time indoors now than I really ever have. And it's important to make that feel good, you know? Like it's important because like since I'm spending so much time in the crib, like obviously where maybe conflict would arise externally, like outside of my place of like living, now everything I deal with is like in those walls. So like it's important to like for me to like have a space where I can go to like cleanse that, and like really designating the areas in my crib around like just I guess like compartmentalized versions of myself. I want to be this way, or I want to be this me in this space.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. An oil diffuser might work too. Mint would be good.
Oh, I do fucks with some mint.
Yeah, and prosperity herb too. So there you go.
Okay.
Denise definitely has me on the get electronics out of your room at night thing too.
Oh man.
She suggested it the other day and I was like, that makes so much sense.
I love how like Denise talks to all my friends more than I do.
Denise's become replacement you in the friend group.
Like y'all will bring shit up, and I'm like, oh, that's dope. Like I don't know. Yeah, she's like hella serious about that. Like yeah, I don't know. I feel like most of the things that have changed for me, like spiritually or energy wise, has definitely been in response to like things that I've seen her do. So like yoga, like feng shui, like obviously drinking more water and things like that, like really tending to the body, like sleeping when you're tired, no electronics in the room.
That's good though. When you help your body, you help your mind.
Yeah, it's that whole system.
Yeah. Great, guys. Well, okay, before we finish up, I'm going to pull a tarot card for each of you. So who wants to start?
Oh shit. Ash, you gotta go first. Man.
I'll start.
All
Yeah, it's my turn now.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to start shuffling. Take a couple seconds to just focus on your breath. Whenever you feel ready, tell me to stop.
Stop.
Okay. So we have the Chariot reversed. So if you're feeling like you're in a spot where you're just feeling maybe like a little unmotivated, a little like distracted, try and figure out maybe why you are feeling that way, or if there's anything that's got you feeling kind of blocked. Because I feel like you're very good about like getting your goals and stuff done, but sometimes, we all fall to distraction. Is it something you're dealing with right now?
Yeah, I'm on a social media break right now, if you guys haven't noticed. I mean, I haven't beat Justin's social media break yet, but this is the longest. What was your social media break, like a year?
Yeah, I like still have. I mean, like I wouldn't say social media break because like I'm still have Instagram and I still check stories, but like I haven't posted anything since like a couple of days after my birthday last year, so December.
Yeah, this is the longest I've gone without like being on Instagram, and it was just I kind of fell into like a weird depression hole in March. My grandmother passed suddenly, and then I had a bunch of health issues, and I was just getting a lot of I don't know, with everything going on in the world. Instagram was like adding a lot to what was already a pretty bad depression pile for me. So I was like, I'm just gonna be off this until I reset and then can be available for people, which I'm feeling like a lot more like that's gonna happen soon. So I'm excited about that. I'm gonna limit myself at first because I think one of the problems with me in social media is that like I'm constantly anxiously checking to make sure that everyone I know is okay.
Oh shit.
I relate.
So that's the rut I've been in lately. And then also I'm starting school again soon. So feeling pretty disorganized about that.
Well, that makes sense then, because like the Chariot card is part of the major arcana and represents like a lot of change and just moving forward. And it seems like you got a lot of stuff that's like changing and you're just feeling blocked right now. Or just like, maybe the change of all of it just has you in a spot where you're just like, I'm not 100% with everything yet. IDK.
IDK, it'll move, it'll go, it'll pass.
This shall pass. All right, Justin, it's your turn.
Okay, go through the steps again.
All right, take a couple seconds, just focus on your breath. I'm going to start shuffling, and then whenever you feel ready, you just tell me to stop. I'm going to pick the first one from the top.
Okay, stop.
Okay, so you have the star, which again is also part of the major arcana. So it seems like right now things are like good, hopeful. Maybe there's like some stuff kind of just around that's changing your general mood, your environment. So things that look like they're good. Do you feel like things are good?
Yeah, I feel like things are good. Like, I feel like that's been my mood all year, high key, even through COVID. Like, I'm in a pretty good place. Like, but I think being in that good place has provided me with this realization that, like, damn, it has really been me stressing me out my entire fucking life. Because it's like, especially like in this like space of like COVID, it's like, damn, I'm really just like in the crib all by myself, like ample time to do things and still not doing the things that I want, like completely void of like any external obstructions and shit. Like I'm still here. Like sometimes I go through my notes in my phone and I'll see like stuff I wrote about like 3 years ago, and I'm like, bro, that is literally still me. Like, at what point do I have to like stop writing, or at what point do I stop writing about like procrastination and just understand like I'm just a fucking procrastinator, bro. Like, let's not entertain. Like, but I am in a really good space though. Like, but I think being in that good space, like I said, has provided me with this like kind of internal struggle because it's my first time here, and this shit don't feel right. And my brain's like trying to find all these problems, but I feel like most of my year has been just like this communication with self telling me like, oh, everything's good. Like, don't trip off that, or like, don't put too much energy into that thought, or you might make it real. So
That's good though. I like that.
yeah, I'm also dating a goddess, so
Denise is number one in all of our hearts.
bro, literally is like if I pull up without Denise, there's a problem. Like every time we talk, she's be like, "How you doing?" I already know how my friend doing. Like she says this shit every fucking time. So
Christian's like, "Who are you texting?" I'm like, Denise.
right. Oh my god. But yeah. So I am good though.
Good. I'm glad. They both seem to resonate a little bit. Both cards.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Well, this was great. I could talk to you guys forever, but tell everybody where they can follow you, find your art, how to support you, any events you got coming up. Let the people know.
So as far as following me, my name on Instagram is Justin, Justin, Mikhail, Mikhail, Solomon, Solomon, full name. Yeah.
All right, Ash, where can we follow you?
All right, I'm on Instagram at Jesus Loves Memes. It's JesusLuvsMemes. Spelling things out loud is like my weak point. I have like a new project, like an entirely new project that I've been working on for the last few months while away from social media that I should start posting about soon. Also, if you search Don't Take Pictures in Justin Solomon, you should see an article I wrote about him about a year ago. His art is amazing.
Yo,
Your art.
what was yours though? So
Okay, well, awesome. And Ash, one last thing before we go. I seriously think that you should put some thought into a Last Supper project where Justin could be Jesus. I know that was thrown out at least once when we all worked in the shop. I'm just hoping it,
We should have taken advantage of the pastry case while we still worked there as the Last Supper table, dude.
Fuck, that was a missed opportunity.
That would have been so cool.
That would have been hella nice.
So that was the episode. I can't even, and just like talking amongst them, the stories I told you in the intro about things that happened to me, that doesn't even scratch the surface of all of the amazing, bonkers, just wild things that happened at this shop, This time in my life really was chaotic in every sense of the way, but in the best way at times too. Well, thank you for listening. You can support Ash and Justin. Their links are in the show notes, so please follow them. They're such amazing people and they're so talented. If you want to support me or the podcast, you can check out my website. It's bexbcastin.com. There is a Tutia Bruja tab there if you want to get involved, be a guest, sponsor the show, whatever you'd like to do. If you would like to catch up with the show specifically, I do post a lot of information to social media if there's going to be a cancellation or something like that, but we're not canceling, man. 33 episodes, still trucking. And then, if you just want to keep up with me, you can check me out at bexbcastin on Twitter and Instagram. Thanks for listening. I look forward to tomorrow's episode. It's the Halloween season, baby. Let's keep going. Bye.
Yeah.